Welcome to the first PCR EMV update. This is the first in a series of webinars where we'll update you on our latest plans for EMV solution. Details for these sessions will come from your NCR account manager. Today, we have myself, Beth Atchison, the EMV solution manager. We have Maren Jackson, the program manager for EMV, and Ernesto Priego, our product manager. Today, we're going to review the schedule and what our solution will include. I will cover the solution, Maren will speak to timelines, and Ernesto will speak to EMV functionality. We plan to start each of our monthly updates going forward with some myths about EMV.
Implementing EMV in your convenience store is required and will be enforced by government regulation or Security Council.
Convenience stores in the U.S. are not required to implement EMV solutions. There, in fact, is no fine for stores that cannot process EMV transactions after October of this year. There is, however, a liability shift, and the impact of the shift will vary by retailer. It will be highly dependent on geography and store locations. Some retailers may choose to invest in an EMV solution for some, but not all locations. Some retailers may choose to wait and implement indoor solutions at the same time as dispenser solutions for the 2017 outdoor liability shift.
Once you implement EMV, you will no longer be able to accept credit cards with magnetic stripes.
Believe it or not, magnetic stripes on credit cards are going to be with us for quite some time. If you are EMV ready, when a customer pays with an older magnetic stripe credit card, you'll simply swipe it through your new payment terminal's card reader. So, regardless of whether or not you have implemented EMV, you'll be able to take all your credit cards in your store.
Can EMV cards be swiped at the point of sale as well as the PIN pad?
You will be able to swipe non-PCI cards at both locations. However, even though EMV allows card swipes when in fallback mode, for PCI reasons we're restricting the onboard MSR to only allow non-PCI swipes, which includes most EMV-capable cards. All EMV cards will need to be inserted first and the chip found to be defective by the PIN pad before they can be swiped.
In 2014, Ernesto and I circulated a presentation outlining our solution approach on EMV. For those of you who saw that presentation, or even if you didn't, this slide is intended as your one-page EMV solution at a glance.
Solutions for our customers fall into three categories. First, our generic networks, such as First Data or Chase Payment Tech. Second, our custom solutions, which typically include some part of third-party switching. And third, our black box solutions, which address major oil needs. For generic networks, the approach is to use Epsilon as the payment application of choice for both StorePoint and Radiant point-of-sale solutions. These will be tested in combination with 612C1 and 13002 releases for RPOS and StorePoint respectively. Work associated with any other releases will be handled through customer-specific projects and should be discussed with your account representative. EMV will be delivered through new credit and point-of-sale packages that will require solution set testing and site upgrades.
The EPC is an important component of the solution. We will be using this appliance to house the payment application during our testing and will require it for all EMV implementations where generic networks are used.
AJB and ACI implementations are considered custom solutions that will require customer-specific investments. This includes split dial implementations where a combination of Epsilon and either AJB or ACI will be used. Customers should already be working with AJB or ACI to understand dependencies and line up resources for implementation.
Last, our black box solutions will be certified by major oils directly. The amount of work required by each of these solutions varies significantly by network, and implementation details are still being worked out.
For Epsilon Generic, we will support 2 PIN pads. I want to acknowledge that this could be a new message for RPOS customers who were told last year that the solution would be the 915. As we analyzed the existing StorePoint install base, we concluded that we should also include the L5300.
We recommend the 915 as the solution for RPOS customers as a way to reduce overall implementation risk. Keep in mind that the L5300 is not currently generally supported by RPOS, making it difficult to pre-deploy and use the device ahead of the EMV implementation. However, it is the intention of our architecture to support both devices, and customers are free to choose which one they want to use.
There will be a per-site fee for EMV that will vary depending on the type of solution you will be deploying. There will also be annual maintenance based on this fee. If you have not discussed your EMV plans with your account manager, it is time to do so. We will be educating account managers on fees and standard implementation efforts.
NCR's interface to the Shell Vantage solution will be market ready later this year. Vantage is the foundation of what will be Shell's EMV solution.
In our current solutions, the pin pads are connected to and controlled by the POS. This diagram shows the architecture for all of our EMV implementations, regardless of the payment application provider. Whether it's Epsilon, ACI, or AJB, going forward, pin pads will be controlled by the payment application instead of the POS terminal, and physically connected to a TCP/IP network. This approach offers benefits from both a PCI and EMV perspective. It enables taking POS terminals from PCI scope at some point in time, and for EMV, it removes the POS from EMV certification. The implication to customers, however, is that new Cat5 wires will be required to implement the solution.
We want to reassure customers that even though we're changing the architecture, we do not intend to remove existing pin pad functionality due to this change. However, there will be some changes due to EMV itself, such as the elimination of swipe ahead with EMV payments. From a functional perspective, we are planning to offer solutions that extend current payment functionality to include credit EMV capabilities. The intent is that existing non-EMV functionality will remain in place and be operational for non-EMV cards, even though a new architecture is used. One notable exception to this is the use of the point-of-sale terminal MSR, where some restrictions may be imposed around payment processing. Going forward, customers should expect the PIN pad to be the primary point of entry for electronic payment processing. It is worth clarifying that EMV debit cards will work with the solution. However, because US debit functionality will not be included in the initial release, these cards will be processed as though they were credit cards. At a high level, our initial EMV solution will support the following. It will support all forms of customer verification supported by EMV cards, which include no verification, signature, and PIN entry. It will also support both chip-inserted and contactless transactions, which includes Apple Pay. It will also support fallback to MagStripe or manual entry when a chip card is found to be faulty, and stored and forward when the network is all available. Loyalty cards may be swiped at either the point of sale or the PIN pad, and manual account entry will require entry at the PIN pad with cashier verification at the point of sale. The PIN pad itself will support customer display on PIN pad, electronic signature capture, and delayed receipt and/or next transaction start while a card is detected to still be present at the PIN pad. There are also some things that we know will not be supported out of the box with the EMV solution. This includes US debit EMV, which is known as the common AID, PIN bypass, where a customer gets to skip providing a PIN for a particular transaction, offline card approvals, which are not supported by most networks and cards, conditional customer verification, which would enable verification to be skipped in some cases, such as if the transaction amount was below a certain limit, pay at pump support, which will be added later, and of course, end-to-end encryption, which is a separate function altogether. The biggest impact to the customer experience will come from limitations imposed on swipe ahead functionality. This will still be available for non-EMV swipe cards, but removed for EMV payment processing, both chip-inserted and contactless transactions. All EMV transactions will only be processed after the cashier indicates that tendering should start. We understand this will add processing time to a transaction, but is a trade-off required by the overall EMV solution.
We promised today to review timelines, and we're almost there. A critical input to both the functionality we will deliver and the timing of that delivery is documentation from the credit networks. This chart shows the availability of key documents from 7 generic networks. When the dates for EMV were originally published, The timeline provided a window of 2 years for end systems to be ready, once specifications were published. As you can see here, key documents continued to arrive throughout 2014. Early last year, we struggled because although we had some message specifications, we had very few implementation guides. From our experience in Canada, the detailed functional requirements for EMV were defined in implementation guides. We decided to kick off our U.S. project regardless. We had to make assumptions and do our best to align to the 2015 October liability shift. Given the solution we've outlined and the delay in receiving the documentation, the timeline that we'll show today is our best effort to have as many networks certified as soon as we can.
This slide shows certification end dates for our generic hosts. The solution will be available for customer labs as soon as certification is complete. The green box represents the MX915 certification target dates. The blue represents the L5300, and gray represents the pilot certification, where hosts require field testing. First Data and Payment Tech will be the first to be delivered because they represent the majority of our current install base. Our goal is to start development and testing of all hosts and networks in 2015. I know retailers listening today are focused on finding their networks on this diagram. There are conservative estimates driving the timelines, and they may change. It is possible that testing and certification become streamlined as we move past our initial certifications. As we go through the networks, we will continue to look for documentation and host assistance to be available. If not available, this will impact our timelines. You can help by contacting your host and ensuring documentation has been provided. You'll notice some networks without dates. These networks either have incomplete documentation or have chosen to complete one certification, including indoor and outdoor dispenser support. For debit, when we are certification ready, we will include it in our 2016 certifications. We would not wait to do a separate certification just for debit. And if we're ready with dispensers, our strategy is to include dispensers in any pending certifications as well. And we have good news. The First Data Network is being tested. EMV pin pads are operational, being driven by Epsilon, and we're getting EMV approvals from the First Data host.
Because of timelines, it's hard to discuss EMV without including PADSS. Our approach for PADSS varies for the payment applications and the POS. Payment applications are where the majority of the EMV changes reside and will be validated under PADSS 3.0. Since POS certifications are valid for new deployments through October 2016, and because the EMV-related changes may be considered low impact, our current plan is to deliver EMV with POS solutions that are certified for PADSS 2.0. This approach is being discussed with our assessors and should be finalized in the next few weeks. For Radiant POS, we are expecting to remove POS terminals from scope completely by isolating these and other terminals that will not process payments from the PCI-sensitive network. This approach is being considered for the StorePoint solution as well, but some solution dependencies may prevent us from following this path for the EMV solution. So you're asking yourself, what can we be doing while NCR completes and certifies these solutions? If you haven't discussed your EMV plans with your NCR account manager, please do so soon. Account managers will be able to answer questions about module fees, statement of works, and any hardware you may need. EMV projects should also be initiated with any third-party switches. If you haven't purchased pin pads, it's important to proceed due to long manufacturer lead times. Also plan for a site visit for implementing EMV at your stores. Some retailers may consider a preparation site visit, which can streamline implementation. An EPC can be placed on site and wired for pin pads in advance, preparing your site for going live with the EMV solution. While you are working on these items, NCR will be ramping up resources to do multiple concurrent certifications. We will also be working to finalize debit requirements. Look for our next update on EMV in about a month. You may have questions from today's content. Please direct those to your account manager, and we will work with them to provide answers.
One important action you can take is to participate in the EMV Migration Forum, or EMF. The forum has participants from all specialties associated with EMV delivery, including car manufacturers, credit networks, acquirers, consultants, merchants, and solutions providers. They have recently created a fuel group, which provides a great place to discuss fuel-related issues associated with EMV, including dispenser certification, which will incur a liability shift in 2017. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar and encourage you to ask questions or provide feedback on this webinar through your account manager. We may answer your questions directly or address on next month's content if we think others will benefit. As a teaser for next month's update, here's a picture of an EMV transaction driven by Epsilon on the MX915 and approved online by First Data. Next month, we will walk through a complete sample EMV transaction from our EMV lab.